With Pokemon Day soon to be around the corner, I thought it'd be appropriate to actually put together a video here in kind of commemoration of it in this case. Hi, I'm Anthony, also known as the Midwest Gamer, and today I want to actually bring forward some ideas that I think we're going to be looking at for one particular spot of Pokemon Day that is to come up, and that is going to be champions. Now, I know champions is a very big subject for many in the VGC community, and specifically, I want to touch one specific part of what I think champions is actually going to bring, and that is going to be the Pokemon that are megas. Because I've kind of been talking with some people pretty much within the community space that I go to here in good old Wisconsin, and most of them have kind of brought forth this idea that if Champions does come down, which it will, we just don't know when, that it's going to revolve around probably using the mega mechanic or gimmick for Champions to start with. It was one of the most popular, if not still the most popular gimmick that has come forth for Pokemon in recent years, and it was really what kind of started the whole idea of gimmicks. And as we all know, recently Legends ZA brought that back along with a slew of new Pokemon that got new megas. And that was cool. I think that really, though a lot of people may not have liked all the new megas that came forward, I would say that a majority, especially myself, really did like the design and the whole aesthetics that were given to these Pokemon, some of which definitely deserved ones, and others that probably could have done without, but I'm not the one who gets to make all that decision. So, the only thing that we don't know is, what are the abilities that these megas might actually have? So I've compiled a list of all the megas that we got, the new ones of course, and thought to myself, if I were to give them an ability of any kind, this is what I would give them. Now, I will admit, most of these I tried to keep as competitively as I could, just kind of going off the vibes of what I thought the Mons themselves could produce. And there are definitely some Pokemon that are going to be, of course, on this list that maybe don't need a new mega ability of any sort. But I thought to myself, why not at least try to give them all something that's a little unique and a little different from each other so that we're not necessarily overlapping abilities, but it's possible that that could happen. Pokemon has done that in the past, so it's just kind of going to be whatever. And I'm going to try to explain kind of why I thought that these abilities were kind of the better ones for that particular mega in general. Most of the time, these are just going to mainly be my own opinion, so deal with it, I guess. I don't know. So we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to start with the fun and lovable Victory Bell. Now, when you think of Victory Bell, at least in my case, when it comes to just the giant sack that it has with its neck tied up, just trying to remember from when we first actually got the reveal trailer for it, I kind of tossed up the idea that maybe Gluttony could be a usable ability under any circumstance. I know it has to do with mostly eating berries and getting the effects of those berries earlier than what they normally would be. But that didn't quite sit with me that well. So for Victory Bell, I actually went with Lingering Aroma. Just because to me that fits the vibe so much more. And it kind of does devastate a Pokemon that does hit it with any other ability, because then it becomes Lingering Aroma. And I mean, it's Victory Bell, and I just remember from the trailer it's spitting up all the acid inside of it that the one character was saying that awful smell. And so I figured, you know what? I think Lingering Aroma would be a perfect ability for a Mega Victory Bell. Now let's look at another one that was a fan favorite of ours, going still into that whole trailer sense, and that was none other than Mega Hawlucha. Now, for aesthetic and theme-wise, I kind of leaned more toward Libero, you know, kind of just to stick with that whole luchador theme. I think Libero definitely fits that vibe so much better than it was when it was with Cinderace. But I kind of figured that Libero as a whole may not necessarily be the ability that would make Hawlucha better, especially in that Mega form. It looks so cool. It's still fighting and flying type, which to me, I tried to look through all the abilities as best I could, and really the only one that kind of stood out to me, more or less, that he could probably have is Moxie. I thought about Guts, but I think there are other Mons that could utilize it better than Hawlucha, and Moxie just increasing its attack to me seemed absolutely on the nose. Just him getting bigger, stronger in that Mega form in comparison to a smaller form. And just kind of that idea of, you know, he's ready to show off. He's ready to be the center of attention, which to me Moxie shows so much better in that case. Showcases it definitely better, I will say. All right, now we're going to move on to probably one of the harder ones, in my opinion. And that's, of course, Mega Tatsugiri. Now, Tatsugiri is a strange one, simply because he's unique in the fact that he has an ability that, in his non-Mega form, is very unique in the fact that he has Commander, which means he's paired with Dondozo and goes into Dondozo and really more or less increases the stats of Dondozo. And that's cool, but I don't know if that's kind of what I want to see Tatsugiri have. It's so unique, though, that it is possible that it would actually get Commander even in Mega form. It just maybe increases the stats of a Dondozo even further, which sounds, now that I think about it, very terrifying, because Dondozo and regular Tatsugiri already is a beater when it comes to just how hard it is to take out unless you have a Clear Smog or Haze Pokemon. So maybe it gets that. It also already has a really good ability in Storm Drain. And I'm not sure if it would keep that. And again, for the purposes of this video, I want to be able to make the Pokemon have a unique ability that isn't one that they already have. That would fit, in my mind, really great. And I really couldn't come up with one at this junction, which is kind of sad because we're only 3 into the long list of Megas. So I eventually just decided that Tatsugiri, I'm going to imbue you with none other than adaptability. Yes, that's right, adaptability. Tatsugiri, to me, seems the most logical. I have no idea if they're actually going to do that. If they do, this Pokemon is going to be a beast even without being in a Dondozo. So I guess we'll have to find out and see. Moving down the list, though, we hit our friend Malamar. Now, Malamar was another one that has a good ability in Contrary already. Do I think it's going to keep that? I don't think so. In all honesty, I think it's going to have a new ability regardless, just because Contrary doesn't, in my mind, fit the vibe of its new form. It's so flowy and tentacle-like, and again, everyone compares him to Megamind. So I thought to myself, well, what ability that's currently out there could possibly be for a Mega Malamar? And after going back and forth with several options, I landed on Trace. And I think it's simply because of the fact that you know how supervillains may look at a superhero and think, how exactly do I beat my arch nemesis? Oh, I know. I'll use his own power against him. And therefore, Trace does exactly that. It will take the ability of the Pokemon that's there and copy it. So, Malamar as a whole, I think, really kind of fits that vibe a bit more with Trace. It's also more related to a psychic type ability, which he still keeps, so sure, why not? I guess we'll go with Trace in this case for our good pal. And again, I'm not really sure, but it's kind of just, it fits a vibe check for me. I don't know. But moving on, we have, of course, the lovely and the much needed Mega, in my opinion especially, of Frostlass. Now, with Frostlass, being the fact that it's based off of the Yuki Oni, which is, of course, the mountain spirit of ice that leads travelers to a frozen death whilst consuming their souls, it almost seemed too fitting to actually give Mega Frostlass Snow Warning. Now, also the only reason why I think that works really well is not only does it fit it again with that whole mythological theme, but it's also the fact that we only have Abomasnow that has Snow Warning. And I hate to say it, but Abomasnow, buddy, that just doesn't do you any justice. Yes, with the new fact that snow, which I can only assume is going to be the mechanic here instead of hail for champions, is going to be used, it doesn't really work out in my favor to have the abominable tree being used a lot. Not a lot of people really liked Abomasnow, but a lot of people seem to like Frostlass. And with Abomasnow being kind of the only snow user, I figured, well, let's give Frostlass that ability. I mean, clearly, when it came to its other form of Glalie, they gave it Strong Jaw. I think. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've looked at Mega, so just stop being mean if that's not the case. But point is, I think that with new people especially learning the mechanics, and with weather being a very potent and prominent part of VGC, why not just give Frostlass Snow Warning then? We now have what most people would probably say is a better user of the snow. So we're going to stick with Snow Warning in this case. And let's move on to our next one, which is Scrafty. Now, with Scrafty, I'm going to say not 100% sure what exactly we could possibly give him. I went with Unaware. Just seemed, I don't know, somewhat fitting. It's not really. But I couldn't really come up with anything else that really spoke to me. And honestly, it was just kind of like I had to give something to him. So if anyone can come up with a better one than I, great. Because that one, I don't really have a good reason behind why I gave it to him. So, and then of course we have our favorite, good old spaceman himself, Starmie. And I think we can all kind of agree at this point in time, everybody thinks that it's going to get huge power just because of its stat line and the way that most of the time Game Freak gives out huge power to Pokemon. So I think we're just going to stick with huge power and see if we're all right. I hope we are. Going down the list, again, we have the Clefable. Now, Clefable is an interesting one because we basically made Clefable Togekiss. So I thought, well, why not give it Serene Grace? That fits pretty well. Togekiss is big and bulky. Clefable in Mega form is exactly that. just with, I don't know, little extra wings and whatever kind of hat that they gave it. But I thought to myself, maybe we can give something different. And so I decided to give it Misty Surge. And then I realized that Misty Surge doesn't really help because it's flying. And based off my knowledge, if anything is off the ground in any capacity, it doesn't get the effects of the Surge ability. So I kind of had to switch that one up and just went back with Serene Grace because it seemed the most fitting, and I wanted there to be another Surgemon, but I don't think that's actually going to be the case at this point in time. So next up, Dragalge. Now, I gotta be honest, this was another Pokemon that I really looked at and thought, is there anything that I can give it that isn't just Poison Touch or Poison Heal? Because to me, if Pokemon is going to actually go and give these new Megas abilities, you'd hope they'd want to give them something useful, at least in battle. So I kind of thought, well, maybe, Toxic Debris would be a good one, but we already have Glamora, and I don't know if they'd really want to give two Toxic Debris Pokemon, that same ability, even though one's a Mega and one's not. And it's also the fact that we have Glamora already. So, I mean, that one I kind of thought to myself, okay, well, what could I give it that would be useful? So I kind of threw together Infiltrator. It's just another way to get through screens, and the Dragalge has a lot better stats, I believe, specially. And screens as a whole are just going to be terrifying. So to have a Pokemon that is both Dragon and Poison that can get through that, seeing as how most fairies and psychic types use that a lot, I just kind of figured that Infiltrator would be a good middleman, middling ability, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But again, was really hoping to give it something better, like maybe Toxic Boost or something of that degree. But again, most of these require that it be poisoned, and you can't poison a poison type unless you have Corrosion as your ability, which I did not give anyone. So that would actually also work. I don't know. Let me know what you think with that one. But moving down the list, we have good old Excadrill. And this one, I decided we're just going to buff Excadrill heavily, as I'm giving him Defiant. Because too often I would run into the fact that... Sorry, cat. If I got intimidated with an Excadrill, even in sand, it didn't produce that much power, and I had to use a Swords Dance to actually go ahead and increase that power level. So I figured, well, why not expedite it a bit more and just actually have it that if an Intimidator comes in on the Excadrill and it's Mega'd, you are in deep trouble. So it is unfortunately having to force the fact that you have to Mega Evolve the Excadrill. But let's be 100% honest, who isn't going to Mega Evolve the Excadrill? Not me. I am absolutely going to put that guy to work. T-Tar, you had your day in the sun. I think, though, Excadrill has got your number, my friend. And besides, you still get sand, so it's a bonus. Overall, I'd say. Next, of course, we have Skarmory. Now, again, this was another Pokemon that I had no idea what in the world I would even give it. Its abilities outside of Sturdy really aren't that great. So I decided, let's just make him Hawlucha and give him Unburden. Let's make this bird even faster. And to be honest, I think that really fits the vibe of him going from that silver to gold coloration. He just looks sleeker and faster and more powerful. So give him a citrus berry, have that run out, and then just proceed to scratch the eyes of every Pokemon that comes its way and just obliterate them with absolute indomitable speed. You've already got great attack, you've already got great defense. Your speed is actually really good too, so let's just make it better. Why not? And finally, we have on at least the continuation, because there's a lot more we got going on here. We move to Phalanx, our favorite boy of 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 6. I can't count. 6 boys in this case. And let's be honest, I think this Pokemon needs to have even more power. So let's give good old Phalanx sheer force, because with him just kind of scuttling along and just dealing and dishing enough damage out, he's going to be a true wrecking crew with sheer force as a Mega, especially if you give him close combat. I don't think any of you normal types are going to have a fun time with him under any circumstance, let alone any Pokemon that is basically not Ghost. But even if you are, I believe good old Phalanx does get a Dark type attacker too. So you know what? I think sheer force really fits him. He's cute, he's adorable, but those are the ones you got to watch out for. Next up, Chandelure. Now, I wanted to give Chandelure Shadow Tag, but I figured that was way too on the nose. We already have a Shadow Tag user in Gengar, so I kind of figured, you know what, let's try to change it up a little bit. And again, it was kind of really hard for me to look through a lot of the abilities and try to come up with anything good, so I just kind of gave him Mold Breaker. And then I thought about it and figured that's actually really good, because there are several Pokemon that do have moves, or I should say abilities, that can prevent Chandelure from maybe dishing out a lot of damage. And Mold Breaker basically gets around that. So why not? It doesn't, I mean, it kind of breaks the mold if you look at it. It just got more Chandeliers. Just like a Mega Chandelier. That's really it. I mean, it kind of just has that look to it. And Mold Breaker is still kind of a weird one to me when it comes to just giving certain Pokemon them. So why not Chandelure? Gosh, I can't even speak. Point is, we're going to go with Mold Breaker on good old Chandelure. Again, this is another one of those that probably would have a better ability if I put a little more into it, but right now we're just going to stick with that. Next, we have good old Pyroar. Now, I doubt Pyroar is ever going to be used because it's Pyroar, and Pyroar really never got used when it was just regular Pyroar. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to have a usage here unless it gets a really broken ability. So I figured, you know what? Let's just give it Normalize. Everything becomes Stab. Perfect. Oop, hit that desk. Stop it. Moving on. Scolipede. I think that this one kind of really is on the nose that I have picked and chosen. And honestly, he was kind of the spark that brought this idea forward. And with the fact that he's got a bunch of new armor on and it's covering his body like a shell armor. Enough said. I mean, it fits him perfectly. Plus, it makes it so that he can't get hit by crits. And with as much defense as he has, I think that that works out very well for him. It makes him a lot more viable and useful. But deep down, I'm going to actually say that I really hope he keeps Speed Boost, because then he's going to be so much better. Because then you have a big speedy boy that is going to have so much defense and attack that it's going to literally just be a bug tank. And we need a bug tank. Shout out to Bug Month. Next up is good old Baxcalibur. This is another Pokemon that, again, I think has to probably keep the majority of one of his many abilities that he already has. I don't know, though, if he has this ability already. He probably does. So let me know if that's the case. But I gave him Slush Rush. Fast, hard hitter in the snow. What more can you ask for with a guy that literally has a giant sword piercing through his belly, out his backside, that is going to literally glaive rush everything to oblivion? Can't really argue with that, I would say. Underneath him, we have Golurk. Now, Golurk, we already are kind of speculating that if he gets No Guard and keeps No Guard even throughout Mega... Actually, that's right, he doesn't have that yet. Not bad. But still, if No Guard is not given to him, which will make him an absolute monster. Actually, no. It's Fissure. You can tell I haven't kept up with a lot of these things. But point is, I think they're going to give him, if anything, a move that makes it so he cannot lose his attack, because that's his main staple outside of the fact of maybe getting No Guard Fissure. And that would be, in this case, Hyper Cutter. Can't lose your attack. Pretty darn simple. Didn't think there was much else that could go along with him. At least that made much of any sense. But of course, now we move to one of the other hard ones, because Dragonite already has two phenomenal abilities in Inner Focus and Multiscale. And you know that Game Freak pretty much has their, other child that they just love and adore besides Charizard and, of course, Pikachu and somewhat Eevee. But what do you give a Pokemon that already has good abilities as is without transferring it to its Mega? How about Aerialate? Let's make normal moves Flying Stab. Because now we can make E-Speed truly a terrifying monster. And make it so that people hate it even more. Now, I did add in this case the Z-type Pokemon. In this case, Absol Z. I so wanted Absol Z to basically get one of the best abilities out there for it, in my mind, which was Dark Aura, because I think increasing the attack power of all Dark-type moves when that's like your main thing for a type seemed perfect. My issue is I just don't know if Game Freak would actually give a Mega Pokemon the same ability as the Box Art Legendary. Same thing with Fairy Aura. I kind of thought that from maybe the Clefable too, but again, we are getting those two back at some point within, I'm sure, Champions. And just to have a Pokemon that really is, in most opinions, even lesser than the Yveltal that has Dark Aura already, probably not going to be used that much. So I thought again, well, what else could I give it that would be useful, or that would actually maybe come across the minds of Game Freak in giving such a Pokemon this ability? And so I came up with Prankster. It's a move that Dark types use, as well as it fits kind of that ghosty vibe as well. And I think there are several moves that the Mega Absol does get that would work very well, just because of the fact that, again, it is Dark, and Prankster usually fits Dark types. Sableye, of course, is the other Ghost and Dark type that does get Prankster, and Mega Absol is way better Sableye, especially since Mega Sableye gets Magic Bounce, so it loses Prankster. Same thing with Banette. Banette gets Prankster, so why not give this one Prankster? It's just better in both categories. Plus, it's cooler looking. Again, I was just enthralled with the way they took the Absol and made it that fallen angel type look. Just, oh, goosebumps. Goosebumps. And of course, we have to move in with Lucario Z. Now, this one was another one that I kind of looked at it and thought, okay, what could I possibly give this Pokemon that already it doesn't have? Yes, it has Inner Focus. Yes, it has Justified. Inner Focus is the best one that you could absolutely keep for it, but then again, I just can't see that being the case. I forget, I think regular Mega Lucario gets... Oh boy, I'm going to be shot in the foot here again, I'm sure, but I think it gets adaptability. So for this one, I decided we'll give it Technician. I really don't know if that's going to work out very well for it, but now it's out there in the ether. So we'll take it with a grain of salt in that case. Moving down, we have Scovillain. I think in this case, Scovillain, we're just going to give you Ripen, buddy. I don't see anything else that is really going to be worth giving you that would make you more viable unless they give you Drought. Which, if they give you Drought, boy, oh boy, that is going to be a fun one to try and actually work around in that case, because that at least gives us a secondary Drought user. And honestly, it probably would work better. I don't know. I think it just feels right for the Ripen, and I think it's just because it's too on the nose. It fits the look, it fits the Pokemon fully, so we're gonna go with Ripen. Golisopod, gonna give you Tough Claws, buddy. You are already hit very hard. Let's just make all your physical attacking moves hit even harder. That way your first impression will do immense amount of damage. And honestly, everything else will, and it's just going to be, once again, a Slaughterfest. It also fits with just his look. Tough Claws gotta be the one that I think we go with for our good boy, Golisopod. Is it Golisopod or Golisopod? Don't know. We'll get back on that. Now, Delphox. This one, I pretty much said, hands down, I think they're going to give it Psychic Surge. And probably a lot of you are saying, well, why in the world would they give it Psychic Surge? That just makes it totally broken. Yeah, that's kind of the point for Megas. And going back to kind of the Misty Surge idea, if we really look at it from a competitive sense, we only have one Pokemon that can set up terrain, and that's Indeedee. And to me, that's great and all, but we need more Pokemon that can actually set up terrains. That's like a really big part of competitive Pokemon. And to just have one doesn't quite seem right. So I figured, you know what? Delphox with Psychic Surge, I think we're going to see a lot more usage of him. In fact, I don't even care what ability they give him. Kind of. Shouldn't say that necessarily, but I mean, come on. He's cool looking. He looks more like he sounds. Delphox, to me, with Psychic Surge, is just the pinnacle of what one could imagine from a wizard, witch, warlock, anything of that sort, which that's what I think most people get the vibe from for this Mega of Delphox. Now with Greninja, I was very tempted to go with Battle Bond because we have not seen Battle Bond used at all except for when you had Ash's Greninja, and that seemed really cool to me. But I went with Skill Link instead, simply because I think with Water Shuriken being able to hit 5 times and its priority, enough said. Probably they're going to have him keep Protean, but I think Skill Link is a very good secondary. And when we moved down the line to our good friend Chestnut, I at first was going to say, let's give him battle armor, because he's got a lot more actual armor on him. The big old halberd, the majestic cloak, everything there basically said to me, battle armor is perfect. Then I remembered, yes, but he does still have spikes. So let's give him iron barbs. Because who doesn't want a spiky shield, iron barbs, a Pokemon that is going to absolutely get bodied by this wonderfully designed Pokemon. And it just, to me, I like that idea of the whole hedgehog rolling up into a ball and saying, don't touch me. Well, this is don't touch me on a grander scale. And we haven't seen Iron Barbs since Ferrothorn, so this seems appropriate, at least, to have a Pokemon have Iron Barbs. Why not? I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be really fantastic to have him have that. Now, keeping with the starters, we're going to go down to Meganium, and this should come as no surprise to most people, but I think Mega Meganium should get Grassy Surge. It'll increase the amount of damage that the Grass-type moves do, and it gives us another terrain user, since if they go with just the Pokemon from ZA, we again only have Indeedee from the DLC that can set up a terrain. We need more terrain, and Meganium with Grassy Surge is perfect. It just fits. Okay, that's just, we're going to leave it there. Just fits. For Emboar, I said Hustle. I know it seems kind of redundant in the fact that he's another fighting type. Give him Hustle. He'll deal more damage, but it'll be at a cost. But I mean, come on. There's really nothing else that I can think of that works with him. I could say Flash Fire. I could say Heat Proof. Stuff that works with the fire aspect of him. I guess one could also put in Steelworker just for the fact that he looks like, again, his Imperial outfit to me would speak that he is, you know, a blacksmith more so than anything. But even at that, he looks more empirical, so that doesn't really fit the vibe. I don't know. Hustle was kind of the best option I came up with for him, at least in the moment. And of course, our good friend for Alligator, no surprise here, I gave him Strong Jaw. I know that Sheer Force is a way better move considering that it buffs all the moves by a lot more than Strong Jaw does. But I mean, come on, look at the hood. Look at everything that literally just turns him into big version of Totodile on grand scale. I mean, one of his animations looks like him literally chomping down on his foe in front of him. What better thing to give him than Strongjaw? I mean, come on, it works. You gotta admit that it works. Chimecho, I decided to give Clear Body. I don't know what else you can really give him. I guess you could give Punk Rock, but it doesn't fit the Chime vibes that much. So, I don't know, give him Clear Body. I really am not sure what else you would give. Maybe he's another Psychic Surger, or maybe he's the Misty Surger, but I don't know. Just doesn't seem to fit well. I know it really doesn't improve Chimecho that much more, but it helps him out than what he was originally. So, you know, give him Clear Body. I don't know. We're working on a lot of, you know, abilities here and just trying to make things work as best as possible. Now, I try not to necessarily do the legendaries and the mythicals that came down the line, only because I don't know what you give them. That's not in a wheelhouse that I have the full grasp of in mind. And Heatran as a whole already had some interesting ones, definitely with Flashfire, but it came in handy, at least when it came to the Terras, the terrestrialization gimmick. Now that we're not maybe going to necessarily start with that, maybe we do, I don't know, but I just figured, again, he's a legendary, he's big. I'm just giving him multi-scale. Let's just make him even more bulky and hard to kill. That just seems logical enough in my mind. Staraptor, I gave Staraptor guts. The fact that we have now made him a fighting type, to me, proves that he can use guts to a grander extent. And he just has that vibe to me that, you know, he kind of reminds me of a Thunderbird. And what more terrifying thing could you have than a giant Thunderbird coming down in flames and just annihilating you from the sky? It does make it, though, so that if you run Mega Staraptor, you kind of have to say, I'm going to Mega Evolve him, which I don't know if that's going to happen a lot. I hope it does, because I think that this Pokemon was in dire need of something that made him more usable than just maybe in singles. And this is kind of the way that I can say that he can be in doubles and have a really good ability. So I gave him guts. And that's it. I'm just going to hold to the guts, and that's going to be my big requirement of anything. Garchomp. Sandforce. Garchomp at this point is one of those that he has had so many abilities that are good that I don't know. Maybe Sharpness for this one. I actually don't know if Sharpness was the one that he got previously. Part of me says no. Because I know that he got a dog water ability in comparison to what a lot of people had hoped he would have gotten. But to me, Sandforce, it's with the Z, especially the way that he is, that or Sharpness. One of those two. Just going to say one of those two in that case. Electros. We're giving him the Electric Surge. Because again, we need more terrain users. And honestly, Electric Surge plus all of the electric type attacks that he has, just phenomenal. Now, if he keeps Levitate, great. Both of those seem fantastic in this case to me. So we'll see. But again, we're going with Electric Surge just because of also the fact that, you know, he's amped up. He's got like the two batteries, the plus and minus. And that really kind of fits more than like Say Battery, the ability that no one really ever knows about that does exist. So definitely going to give him more of an Electric Surge. The Meowstic, I thought I nailed this one pretty well, simply because we're melding the male Meowstic and the female Meowstic together as one. So I figured, you know what? Let's give them Synchronize because of the whole fusing aspect and the fact that, you know, because they're being fused, Synchro, you know, just having it be that even if it gets a status condition, so do you, because there's two. I think Synchronize is one of those abilities that just, I don't know, works with Combine. Ooh. Getting a little too excited there at the microphone. Crabominable, Another one I think I hit on the head pretty well, giving it Intimidate, because that fight was absolutely intimidating for so many people, including myself. I didn't have as much trouble as I think some other people did, but it wasn't easy. I had to use so many potions and so many revives on my Pokemon just to even get to the point of defeating both of them. That, I mean, it was truly one of those fights that when you saw it to start with, I think a lot of people were just taken aback and like, oh my gosh, what have I just gotten myself into? And I think it fits the vibe very well. We didn't have any other Pokemon at this point that had Intimidate down the list, so I figured, oh, this is a good one to throw in at that point. Okay, Zygarde, no idea. I just gave it Neuroforce. No clue. Honestly, it's just going to be broken, in my opinion, whatever you give it. So, why not give it Neuroforce? Because let's just make it even more terrifying. Same thing with Floette. I have no clue. Just the whole vibe aspect of it. I'm like, what do you give this thing? I don't know. There's nothing that pops up immediately when I'm like, Mega Floette gets this ability. Nothing was coming to mind. I just gave it Flower Gift because it had flower in its name. And that's about it. Yes, it increases the special attack of Pokemon, I believe. But there was really nothing else for that one. Truly nothing else. Drampa, I gave him Drizzle. Only because the whole electric, like, pulsating around him in the cloudy form that he is, and the fact that he looks like a Raijin, which to me was like Thunder Dragon, even though he's still Dragon Normal, I figured, you know what, let's just give him Drizzle. We are in need of another Pokemon that knows weather, or has weather for its ability, I should say. And that works, in my opinion, very well for Drampa. It just is like, oh gosh, here's this old, Pokemon that seems to be, just loafing around on the ground. Oh no, I wonder what it was like in its, early years and its youthful years. Oh wow, okay, yeah, it was the dragon that brought down the rain and had all these electric looking, clouds around it, and it just worked in my mind. It definitely said this is a good fit. This is definitely a good fit in this case. Magearna, once again, probably going to keep Soul Heart. If it doesn't, I said Mirror Armor because it's steel. And if I can bounce back a stat change that would affect me and now affects my opponent, that seems pretty darn good to me. So we're going Mirror Armor on Magearna. We're getting to the very end here, so I'm just going to kind of go through them a little quicker. Zeraora, I was going to just give it Motor Drive. Just make it speedier, Just make it so that it hits fast and hard, because that's what it does. Barbaracle. It got fighting. Give it Iron Fist. Really don't know what else you can give it that makes it actually more useful than the abilities it already has. So just make punching moves do more damage. Seems good to me considering how many arms it now has at its disposal. It now has the most arms, I think, out of any Pokemon in existence, so let's put all those arms to good use. Now, Glimmora, again, I don't know that they would give it another ability of any sort, because Toxic Debris is just kind of its thing. But I guess if they were to give it one, why not give it Merciless? It's gonna Mortal Spin. It's gonna poison things. Let's make that poison even more toxic and boost some damage dealt by this thing. It just, to me, it feels on point. Give it Merciless. It is going to wreck house. I know I've used that term multiple times. But that's just how some of these Pokemon are going to be, and that's kind of how Megas are. They just wreck house because that's their thing. You get 100 extra in your base stat totals, you're going to be better than what you were when you weren't Mega. Case in point. And rounding it off, we have the 2 Raichus. For Raichu Y, I just figured, let's give it Levitate. I mean, one of these Pokemon ought to have it. Why not it? Why not Y? It just kind of feels that vibe in the fact that it's floating, you know, a bit more in that case. I know X looks a bit more floaty, but that one's more on the ground. And actually, now that I think about it, this is going to be like the only Pokemon that I think I doubled up on an ability for. In fact, I know it is because I'd already said it for Crabominable. For Raichu X, give it Intimidate. It is a physical attacker. It's more of a physical wall. Kind of, not really. But, I mean, it just looks intimidating. More so than any of the other forms, which are still very cute looking. Even Y is more cute looking because it looks more Pikachu-like than even Pikachu. So there you go. That is the list of all the current new Megas and the abilities that I think work the best for them if Game Freak and Pokemon actually goes ahead and gives them all unique and different abilities from each other and from the abilities that they already have. So, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think I got some right? Most right? All right? None right? I mean, what abilities would you say that you would give these Pokemon? Let me know in the comments below. Definitely like and subscribe to this channel. I've definitely got a lot more content that I'm looking to put out there, but it really is going to come down to you guys telling me what you like and what you want to see more of, and just bringing that community forward, especially since we're so close to Pokemon Day coming, and I hope you're all as excited as I am, because this is 30 years of what I would consider one of the best hobbies and moments of my life growing up. And so I really hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I am now going to sign you off with the Midwestern goodbye, which is going to basically be very long. I think my hand's not even... there we go. Oh, goodbye, guys. We'll see you next time.